CBS News polling shows a majority of viewers approved of President Trump's address last night. You see the numbers next to me, 76% to be exact. But it's important to note, 51% of the speech watchers are Republicans, 27% independents, and only 20% were Democrats. The president's speech lasted an hour and 40 minutes. He touted what he did in the first 6 weeks of his second term and pointed the finger at former President Biden for several issues. Many Democrats walked out in protest. And we have team coverage on this for you this morning. Nikole Killion is on Capitol Hill with what lawmakers have to say about the address. But let's begin with Nancy Cordes at the White House. Nancy, the address had the hallmarks of a Trump campaign speech, but tell us more about what we witnessed.
It sure did, Errol. It was combative at times. President Trump didn't make any of the typical overtures to the other side that you would normally see in a joint address to Congress. Democrats were pretty theatrical as well, a sign that neither side has high hopes for a whole lot of bipartisanship over the next 4 years.
America is back.
A self-assured President Trump declared the first month of his second term the most successful in history.
Do you know who number 2 is? George Washington. How about that?
He walked the nation through some of his most aggressive moves.
I withdrew from the unfair Paris Climate Accord. I imposed an immediate freeze on all federal hiring. I signed an order making English the official language of the United States of America.
As Trump ticked off the highlights, some ticked-off Democrats held up signs that said false. And some of his claims were false, including this one.
I terminated the ridiculous Green New Scam.
That policy doesn't exist.
We ended the last administration's insane electric vehicle mandate.
That policy also doesn't exist.
Joe Biden, the worst president in American history.
In a departure from tradition, Trump repeatedly slammed his predecessor.
Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control.
Many Democrats walked out.
The chair now directs the sergeant-at-arms to restore order.
Al Green of Texas had to be escorted out because he wouldn't stop shouting about possible cuts to Medicaid. Billionaire Elon Musk drew jeers and cheers when President Trump plugged the massive cuts Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency have been making to the federal workforce.
The days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over.
The president also touted new tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, but admitted there may be some short-term pain.
Tariffs are about making America rich again, and there'll be a little disturbance. We're okay with that.
And he vowed there are more tariffs to come.
April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them.
In a surprise announcement, Trump celebrated the arrest of Mohammed Sharifullah, one of the alleged masterminds behind the Abbey Gate bombing in Afghanistan that killed 13 U.S. service members.
And he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice.
On foreign policy, he vowed to seek peace in Ukraine.
Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine regarding the agreement on minerals and security. Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time.
He said he also plans to retake the Panama Canal.
We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
And he somehow plans to acquire Greenland.
One way or the other, we're going to get it.
Clocking in at an hour and 40 minutes, it was the longest presidential address to Congress in recent history. And it ended with this.
My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future because the golden age of America has only just begun.
Democratic Senator Elissa Slotkin from Michigan delivered a much shorter 10-minute response to President Trump's speech that painted a very different picture, characterizing his first few weeks in office as taking a reckless and chaotic approach. Slotkin argued that his economic plans are already pushing the stock market and consumer confidence down. She said, Errol, if he's not careful, he could walk us right into a recession.
And Nancy, on that economic point, the president embraced his tariff policy during the speech, but then Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said they might modify the tariffs with Canada and Mexico in discussions today. What are you hearing from your sources about that?
Right. That was pretty eye-opening when Lutnick suddenly said that he has been talking to his counterparts in Mexico and Canada, and there could be some changes afoot in the very, very near future. It's unclear whether there was some kind of breakthrough and Canada and Mexico are now offering something that they weren't offering before, or if this administration just got spooked by some of the reaction to the tariffs being imposed yesterday. The Dow tanking 1,300 points over 2 days. Canada swiftly reacting, imposing its own tariffs. You even had one province leader in Canada threatening to cut off energy supplies to 3 U.S. states. And so Canada's clearly not taking this lying down. And now you're hearing from White House officials that they may be in a position to roll back these tariffs.
Really interesting. Nancy, thank you for that. Let's cross over now from the White House to Capitol Hill. You see Nikole Killion standing by there. Nikole, we saw that, and our polling shows that this was a speech for Republicans. Republicans in the room seem to love it. Help us understand how lawmakers overall are reacting to the president's speech.
Well, I think that's not unusual. Obviously, you know, the party in power is usually the one that are celebrating the policies, celebrating the actions of the president. And so that was no different in the case of Republicans as celebrating the accomplishments of President Trump and this theme of the renewal of the American dream. But that being said, as many of these addresses often do, they fall strictly on party lines. You probably saw that very clearly in Nancy's package in terms of some of the Democrats who walked out, Congressman Al Green, as she mentioned, who had to be escorted out. And he later told reporters, you know, he doesn't care if he has to face a punishment over this, because a point he was trying to make is that he feels that Americans were being punished by the actions of the Trump administration with respect to some of these cuts. And there is a possibility that he could be censured. In fact, Speaker Mike Johnson suggested yesterday that he believes that some members might come forward with a resolution. So that being said, Republicans feel that Democrats' behavior last night was disgraceful, but Democrats, on the other hand, are criticizing the president's speech and his actions as disgraceful. So again, as usual here on the Hill, both sides pointing fingers at the other.
And now, with the president's address out of the way, we can shift our focus to the next, I don't want to say crisis, but there is a looming government shutdown, which could cause wrinkles all over the place. Where do we stand with that?
Yeah, and that finger pointing is very much in play with respect to a potential shutdown. I mean, look, right now, both sides are in a stalemate. They're deadlocked as far as a path forward. Speaker Mike Johnson has indicated that he does want to perhaps move forward with some type of year-long continuing resolution, which would be a short-term funding bill. That wasn't really the initial objective of congressional leaders and appropriators. You know, they were hoping that they could get some type of deal on top-line spending so that they could pass appropriations bills through regular order, which is something they have been trying to do for years. But since they just can't get there, then they might have to do another temporary patch. But right now, Democrats really don't want to do that. They are concerned that, you know, this is just going to be an extension and allow potentially, for instance, someone like an Elon Musk to continue with these strict, sharp cuts. They want guarantees that the money that Congress allocates is going to get used, is going to get spent, isn't going to get clawed back. So Republicans don't want to offer that type of guarantee. So again, you have both sides really at odds over this with no clear resolution or vote in sight.
All right, we'll keep watching closely. Nikole Killion, thank you so much.